What's going on, everybody? My name is Perfumes, and welcome to How to Make Perfumes Part 1.2. Common citruses, one oddball, dilutions, and how to smell. What's going on? We're doing big things today. We're going to get right into it. We're going to be smelling our bergamot, lemon, lime, sweet orange, and our oddball Petitgrain. I'm going to show you how to dilute really quickly, and then we're going to get into how to smell. If you haven't watched part 1, go and do that. I'm going to link the video in the description because I know how to add links. So let's start by turning it on. Hello, nice to meet you. Very good. How's your day? God bless. So, I already diluted all my material, so I'll be using ethanol, but the same thing applies. I'm just going to show you how to do it very simply. So what we'll be doing today is, as I said, 10% dilutions, which is real easy, nothing difficult. So simple math, whenever you want to get the dilution of something, all you're going to do is think about the total amount of material you'll be needing, and then you're just going to multiply that by its percent. So we're going to fill this 15 ml bottle to 10 grams. The reason why we're not going to go to 15 grams is because 15 ml is smaller than 15 grams. So you can't fit 15 grams in this bottle. So we're just going to do 10, keep it safe, have a little space left over. So we're going to put the bottle on our plate. We're going to press T for tare. So you're going to zero it out. Now we're just going to pretend that what I'm adding right now is a material, but it's just ethanol. So since we know 10 grams is our total, 10% of that is 1 gram. So this is 1 gram of material. All we're going to do is just add 1 gram of material. So bang, right? So that was our 1 gram of material, whatever it is. Let's just pretend it was bergamot. So we did 1 gram of bergamot. Now we're not going to tare because we know the total is 10 grams. So what we're going to do is now we're going to add our ethanol to 10. Oh my God. Oh my God. I'm over here all fucked up. So we're just going to add and add. There's also those really big bottles with like a squeeze thing fucking on it, and you get to administer way more ethanol faster. But for what we're doing, we're just doing baby shit. So it's no big deal. And we're almost there. A little bit more. This is long as shit. Okay, so bang. So we're at 10. Then you would cap it, let it go. That's it. You'd be done now because you added 9 grams. We gotta dump that back. Let's go ethanol right there. I ain't wasting. So you're gonna do that for your 5 oils, and then later on we're gonna do it for our synthetics. No biggie. So do that for everything and we'll be good to go. Okay, so I hope you finished diluting your 5 materials. Yeah, I hope everything went good. If you have any questions, I think I kind of touched on it pretty good. So it's pretty much just getting the total amount of material you want, multiplying that by the dilution you're going for, which is in this case 10%, so we could save money and material. If you have any questions, so that 10% will be 1 gram. So it's just 10 times 0.1. If you want 20%, you do 10 times 0.2. If you want 34%, you do 10 times 0.34. Very simple math. If you do have any questions though, I'll happily answer them, no problems at all. And one thing I just want to point out is that when you do a 10% dilution, the pro is saving money. One con is that you can't make anything over 10%. So you can't make anything past a very light eau de toilette, which would be 10%. Because sometimes that eau de toilette can get up into the 15% range. So you can't do any more than 10%. Even when you get further down the line into more heavier molecules, it might not perform as long lasting or as diffusive as if it were a higher concentration. So keep that in mind. We're going to get into how to smell. So before we smell anything, I want you guys to know that when it comes to smelling, you might think you know how to smell, but you don't. Because the reason why you got to know how to smell is because you have to learn to memorize the things you'll be using. if you don't know in the back of your mind that this thing is this thing, it's going to be difficult for you to use them. And you need to learn how they perform just on their own. Now, when it comes time to blending and making accords, they do change. Things do change. Their performance attributes may change due to other things and how they interact with each other. But knowing information about certain things will help you further predict and have some level of intuition when it comes time for you to start mixing. So we'll get more in depth into that, and I'll explain more what I mean. So just keep that in mind. Now, in terms of describing or like smelling, comes down to how you describe certain things. So when you want to smell something, just think about any word that comes to your head, like any type of adjective or like a descriptive word. So when it comes, whatever it is you're smelling, is it sweet? Is it sour? Is it bitter? Is it damp? Is it dry? Is it bright? Is it dark? Is it dull? Is it sharp? Is it zesty? Is it this? Is it that? Is it masculine? Is it feminine? Right? So just think about tons of different words, and whatever comes to mind, that's, just keep that in your mind. Write notes. Definitely take notes on what it is you're smelling. And sometimes it does help if you do smell things, or like, how can I say it? So like, it also helps to smell things in terms of what it isn't, right? So if you smell something that isn't woody, well, now I know, oh, this isn't woody. This is the opposite. Maybe it's floral, right? Maybe it's herbal. Maybe it's aquatic, ozonic, musky, powdery. All of these things can help you further describe what it is that you're smelling. And it's going to help you memorize down the line. Now, also, one other thing is that when you put it on a strip, write the time down and monitor that strip throughout its duration. So if you put something, made me forget where I was at. Way to go, babe. Fucking up the bids. Where the fuck was I? So you're gonna check interval, or like intervally. You're gonna check in intervals how it goes throughout its duration. So you're gonna check what it smells like in the first initial dip, and then maybe 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, and so on and so forth. Now, all of these things, at most, maybe they'll last a few hours. Bergamot probably will last about, might even get into tomorrow, depending. But for the most part, these things aren't going to last that long. Now, one thing I want to point out is that however it performs, or its tenacity and how it changes on a scent strip, does not relate to how it is when it's on skin. So if you get 10 hours on a strip, that's going to be like 15 minutes on skin, 20 minutes on skin. It's not going to last that much longer. So you're only using it in terms of just to, it's kind of like looking at the evaporation curve of a molecule under a microscope. So you get to see its duration in full effect, as opposed to on skin, you might miss certain aspects or nuances and things like that that you'd further want to couple with something else that you might find on the strip. Okay, so let's get into it. We got our scent strips. I'm using the scent strips I told you not to use, because that's how I do things here. So first, let's get into Bergamot. So we're going to take our diluted bergamot and we're going to go, I'm not writing on the strip because I know what these smell like. I've done this before, so I ain't going to do it. But you are. My nose is a little stuffy, so I'm dirty. Bergamot is mad nice, bro. It's super nice. So bergamot, in my opinion, initially it's sweet. Absolutely sweet. It's slightly sharp, and it kind of has like a lemony top note to it. Not full on lemony, but there is like a nuance of lemon. It is somewhat reminiscent. It does share some similarities with bitter orange, and also just regular orange in general. I think it does share similarities, and that's mostly due to its so there's molecules obviously in each one of these. There's tons of molecules in each one of them, and the main odorants of bergamot would be predominantly something called limonene. Now there's multiple isomers of limonene, so there's dextrolabel, blah blah blah. So it's mostly limonene. There's a little linalool, there's a little linalool acetate, there's a couple of terpenes, which can smell between citrusy, herbal, little piney. So when you start smelling, you could start picking those things up, and you kind of have to look for them. So at first you might only smell something citrusy, but bergamot does have a thread of floralcy a little bit, but it's mild. It's not overly sweet. It's nice, it's pleasant, it's a little zesty, kind of peel-like. Now, me personally, I've never smelled bergamot. I've never even seen a fucking bergamot in my life. So I can't really compare it to the actual fruit, but I do know what it smells like because we got it. Now, obviously, bergamot is arguably the most used citrus in all of perfumery. It is the backbone to fougères, backbone to chypres, and it works with everything. Now, sometimes you might not. So bergamot could be used because it isn't so strong, it isn't so impactful. You could use it in formulas if the top portion of your formula isn't all that nice or all that pleasant. But let's just say if you make a formula and your heart note is really nice and your base is really nice, like your dry down is nice, but the top might be a little funky, you could probably just add some bergamot without conveying a super citrus note, just to kind of cover up or mask what's on top. Because when you do come to formulating, there is things that you might want to use to hinder something else, to elevate something else, to cover something else, whatever it might be. So bergamot, as I said, is indispensable. It's fucking good. It's really nice, and even whatever it's been 2-3 minutes, in my opinion, it's already getting a little bit more floral because it's kind of losing that limonene. Limonene doesn't last that long. It's a very short-lived molecule, but everything else has pretty average tenacity. So we're gonna move on to our lemon. Put a little badangarang on that. Let's get into lemon. So immediately, in my opinion, I believe lemon is much more sweet than bergamot, but you might find it more sharp. It's, in my opinion, I think lemon is super refreshing, especially in comparison to bergamot. And also, if you notice, in my opinion, I think it has a bit more impact than bergamot. Not much more, but it definitely does have more impact. You could smell it from further away as you could bergamot. It isn't as mild. It's much more, what would be? It just has more impact. You could definitely tell, like, straight off the bat. And I think everyone, at least in America, knows what lemon smells like because it's in like every fucking cleaning product imaginable. Yeah, for sure. Now, it also has a high amount of limonene in it. Something like, also like bergamot, has a lot of limonene, and it also contains pretty much a higher dose of something called beta pinene. So what that is, it's like a fresh herbal, piney, obviously woody, citrusy, kind of zesty type scent, and it kind of is like, those would be the two main things which are going to make it differentiate from bergamot or orange. Lemon's definitely much more short-lived than bergamot is, so keep that piece of information in your mind, but obviously find out for yourself, check your strips, and continue on. I gotta do this kind of quick because I feel like this video is long as fuck, but we gotta do this together. Let's upload some high levels of content. I need a bigger iPhone, that's what I need. I need an iPhone, much more storage. So now we're moving on to our sweet orange. Also, I'm going in this order because these are pretty contrasting as we're going, so you don't confuse your nostrils. So sweet orange is probably the natural with the highest content of limonene as far as I'm concerned. It's well over 90%, or like probably 90% and up of limonene. However, orange is, in my opinion, it's strangely not all that sweet in odor. I think like bergamot and lemon definitely smell sweeter than orange does, but it definitely has that peel, rindy type smell. If you've ever eaten an orange, which I assume you have, it does actually smell like that. But if you really dig into it, there is like a metallic facet to it. There's like an aldehydic facet to it, and that's because it does contain, I think, more aldehydes than the other two do. It is a very pleasant odor, and it's definitely more zesty, maybe even leaning a little bit more tart as well. And I think it smells closer to like other fruits than lemon or bergamot. I think it definitely has much more of a fruit facet to it, but not like a berry fruit, more along the lines of like a melon cantaloupe type thing. And there's a bit of spiciness, like a little bit, very, very light hint. If you really dig into it, you kind of pick that up. So, yeah, that's orange. And you're going to keep smelling these time and time again, at least daily, so you get the idea what it is you're smelling. Let's move on to lime. I'm trying to rush this, which rushing isn't good, but that's okay. Now we have our lime. So immediately, in my opinion, out of the first 4 we smelled, lime is absolutely much more impactful than the other ones. Definitely packs a punch. Every time I smell lime, I think about margaritas. 100% is definitely, smells like those ghetto mixers that come in the fucking, whatever, you know what I'm talking about, the green juice. It's definitely much more impactful, and it's way more herbaceous. So it's about a third limonene. So far everything has had limonene. That's kind of been the dominating molecule in all these things, and you can definitely pick it up in here, and you can smell the correlation with this and lemon, and I think bergamot and orange are much more correlative, I think that's a word. But this contains 2 terpenes which actually kind of dictate where that limonene odor is pushed. So it's pretty much from something called terpenine and terpenoline, and those have a much more piney, herbaceous type smell, and I think it's really sweet in my opinion, but it's like cloying, it's like a fresh sweetness, and it's definitely masculine leaning, and I think because of that real zesty like sweetness, it kind of could come across a little harsh at times. And so obviously I think with something like lime, you'd want to dose accordingly, because you know it has much more impact. And typically it doesn't really smell of cleaning products. I think it stands by itself. And this is probably going to be the shortest lived out of everything, but again, you're going to check. So now we're going to move on to our Petitgrain. Now, the reason why I added Petitgrain in here is because it's going to be used in our neroli accord, and this is the one thing out of the 5 naturals we're smelling that's not a citrus fruit. This is distilled from the leaves and twigs of the bitter orange tree. And immediately you can tell it is way more floral, definitely more herbal. God damn, I need fucking water. So it's obviously more floral, it's more herbal. There's some woody and herbaceous undertones. Now this, out of the other ones, is most dominant in linalool and linalool acetate. Now there's also a thread of limonene here, because you can kind of pick up there is a citrusy facet to it. And it does have some type of discernible relation with the other 4 naturals that we've smelled. And Petitgrain is also super important to utilize, bridging the gap between citruses into your floral heart, right? Because you could clearly tell that there's floral, like you could clearly tell it's much more floral. It's not as citrusy. It doesn't smell rindy, but there is a facet of citrus in it. It also contains things like alpha terpenol, which is, in my opinion, a very weird odor to describe, because it's kind of like ozonic, semi-aquatic. It is kind of floral. It's kind of piney. It's kind of herbaceous. It has kind of like, it's like multifaceted. It's a very weird smell, especially because you don't really smell anything kind of related to that. But it is enjoyable. And now Petitgrain is indispensable when making a neroli accord, because a lot of the naturals involved are very close, because again, it does contain the leaves, which is what neroli is. Neroli is just the leaves. This does have the twigs, and that's kind of what's going to give it more of that green semi-stemmy feel on top of that. This also contains geraniol and geranyl acetate, which is present in rose. So now that we've gotten through smelling our 5 things, definitely keep coming back throughout the day if you can, to just smell how they change and take tons of notes, see how they compare, see how they don't compare, and what changes throughout the time. Do they get much weaker? Does it kind of stay about the same? You know, try to take as many notes as possible in terms of like what comes to mind and how you can memorize what it is you're smelling. And that's it for this video. In the next video, we're going to get into some small blends, because I know you're bored and it's boring just smelling fucking scent strips all day. But I think it is absolutely beneficial to help you learn what it is we're doing. So I will see you in the next one. Adios, amigos. If you have any questions, comment